name is Laurel Salvador, and I'll be doing a class beginning Pilates. So basically what I'm going to do is go over some of the fundamentals and exercises that you can do even if you've never done Pilates before. And if you've done Pilates and know it well, this will help go over some of the basics that you can reiterate for your own practice. So what we're going to start, I do use a little bit of yoga. I like the mountain pose because I start every class with a postural check. So first thing we're going to do, go into mountain, feel the top of the head being brought up. You could put a yoga block on your head, it's so level. And from this, we're going to do 4 postural checks. We're going to start from the top of the head, round down. Don't let your chin smash against your chest though. And now stack it up, 1 vertebrae at a time. Okay, forward and up. And 1 more. And so what we're doing here is we're warming up the back, upper back by articulator, trying to move 1 vertebrae at a time. And we're also getting aware of that nice elongated upper thoracic, meaning the chest portion of the back. Shoulders, bring them up and down and stable. So you don't want to end up doing your exercises with your shoulders like way brought up to your sides of your ears. You want to have them nice and stable, particularly when we do the plank. Okay, now another thing, bring them forward for your shoulders and then bring them back, and then right in the middle. Now we're all going to be a little different, but basically you want to shoot for having your shoulders basically under your ear. Forward, back, and right in the middle. And 1 more. We do each postural check 3 times initially. Okay, now the last is for your pelvis area. And so you want to imagine it like a bowl. You want that bowl to be level. You don't want it tipping forward or back. So to imitate that, or to show how to keep it level, you put your index finger on the front bony portion of the pelvis and the thumb on the back. And those 2 points should be level. Okay, bring them forward, back, and then level them. So from the front it looks like this, forward, back, and level. 1 more, forward, back. All right, so now, I won't go over those again, but what I'll use as a terminology is I'll say postural check, and just do the ones, or maybe all 4, that help you to be aware. So I'm going to use the term mountain position. And what that means is a nice neutral back. So given that, let's start with some standing Pilates that you can do really anywhere, sitting or standing. But I want you to imagine you've got the transverse muscles in your abdominals, and they can be either totally relaxed, so they're expanded and rounded, or stable, where you bring them in about 20%. And this is actually what you want 100% of the time. You want a 20% contraction in those muscles. It helps to support your lower back, helps to keep your organs in place. But what we're going to do is we're going to like clench it down. So clench it down, clench it down, clench it down, clench it down. Now, you can't do any belly breathing like you do in yoga. You've got to breathe up through the rib cage. Okay, so hold. Okay, now release it, but don't let it release all the way, right? So imagine you've got that 20%. So we're going to do that kind of an exercise, get into mountain and squeeze. And exhale as you squeeze in. Keeping your breathing normal now, but don't hold your breath. You're tightening those abdominals. Tightening, 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 tightening. Okay, and relax. Now again, we're not relaxing all the way out. We're just letting them go from here to here. 1 more time. Squeeze. And relax. Okay, so now that we have the transverse, I also want to go over another abdominal muscle that you also want to think of, the pelvic floor. And that too, you squeeze it up and in, and then release. So when I say setting the core, when we're doing some of our plank, some of our V-sits, what you want to do is both do the transverse muscles and and your pelvic floor. So let's do both now. Pelvic floor and transverse, squeeze down, and now breathe up through the rib cage. Keeping that breath normal, don't hold your breath. And 1 more. And and now release. So we're doing that about 3 breath cycles. That's about 15 seconds, which you can do during the course of a day to engage those abdominals. You're watching television, a commercial comes on, you're listening to a particular song, just squeeze and hold it for 3 breath cycles. And 1 more. So I'm using my own breathing to help time things. Okay, so far we've done everything standing. I do want to work down to the mat because mat Pilates is, we don't need much equipment. Later I'll bring over the towel I have. But I want to go over your posture when you're sitting. So, when you're sitting, a lot of times people will round their back, because we're all shaped differently. Okay, so this is where nifty little things come in. This is just a regular towel that you might have at home. So if you find that when you sit on your floor that you are rounded forward, first you want to try to take a towel. You can fold it however you like, and you can sit on it. Under the sits bones so that it helps tip the pelvis forward. And that helps to have a nice neutral back. So that's an example of one use of the towel, which we'll be using later too. So what you want to do when you sit is you want to check your posture again. Some people can sit with their legs out and still have a nice neutral back. Others might need to cross their legs. Do whatever works, but let's do our postural checks really quick. Spine stretch forward and stack it up. Okay? Probably don't have to do the shoulders, but let's just do them once. Okay, now, here's the tricky part. Notice your pelvis. So if you notice that your pelvis is tilted back, you might want to sit on a towel. Okay? So see if you can get those 2 points to be level. So the sits bones are on the ground, on the pelvis. Nice straight back. Inhale and exhale. From here, I'm going to face you again. Let's do our abdominal work that we just did. So squeeze down, setting that core, both from the pelvic floor. And we'll do that 3 seconds, and now we'll release. Okay, so now we're ready to do a few exercises from the sitting position before we move down to the ground. So we've gone forward with the back. One movement we haven't done yet is rotation. Okay, so I always like to teach people that when you rotate, you want to rotate from the rib cage. I like to take the thumbs, place it on the opposite of right under the rib cage, right in the middle of that last rib, and you rotate from that point and come back to the middle. I will say this, if you have osteoporosis or any back issues, you want to do this minimally. So what I like to say is you go pre-gentle resistance, okay? So don't go all the way to gentle resistance on that rotation if you have any sort of back issues at all. The key is to listen to your body. Okay, so as you rotate, if you find that it catches, then don't rotate as far. Okay, I'm going to add another move to that, and that'll help work the shoulders. So this is called spinal twist. And again, you can keep your legs bent. You can be sitting on your towel. Some people prefer to do them in what's called staff pose, but not everybody can do this and keep a neutral back. So I'll just do it with the bent leg. You're going to rotate from the rib cage. Exhale. Inhale back to the middle. Exhale. Inhale back to the middle. Exhale. Now I'm using Pilates breath. I'm exhaling through pursed lips and inhaling through my nose. That helps to control the exhalation. And back to the middle. 2 more. This is actually exercise. We're not just warming up. This is actually one of the first exercises we're going to be doing today. And come back to the middle. That also helps to make our back a little bit more flexible. Okay. So, and again, to make our back a little bit more flexible and ready, there's another back move, 2 more. that we haven't done yet. We've done forward flexion. We've done rotation. Now we're going to do what's called extension. So I do like to borrow from Pilates, and we can go ahead and stand up. You don't have to stay seated the whole time. So get up however it works. That's actually part of the exercise, moving up and down from the mat. But you can stay seated if you'd prefer. Okay, so what we're going to do here, the sternum right here, you want to bring it up, but keeping that lower back rock solid. So you might want to even place your hands, stomach and back, and lift the sternum and lower. And once you get that concept that you're lifting from the sternum and not using your lower back, then maybe you'll use hands over heart center and lift and lower. So exhale and inhale back. One more. And back. Now here's the things to notice. If you felt it in your lower back as you did that move, first of all, you have to tighten the abdominals a lot. You might want to do it seated. You might also want to hold your hands here instead and then do a little bit of that back extension. Very gently. It's just lifting that sternum. And we're going to come back to that move when we go down to the mat all the way. So let me show you a move. I use both of my yoga, Pilates, and also my fitness classes as a stretch. You're going to round forward and then inflate a balloon. Inhale. Okay, exhale. And inhale. We're going to do this 3 times. This is helping to give us a little bit of flexibility in our upper back. Warming it up. Okay, let's come back to mountain and center ourselves. Okay, one more move, and I prefer to do this on the ground, but you can do it standing, but I like to do it on the ground because it's easier to imagine that your sits bones are on the ground here. You want to be nice and stable. We're going to do what's called lateral flexion, side bending. Now the side bending has to come from the rib cage up. The lumbar or the lower back is not meant to shift. So best way to do that is get comfortable again using your towel if you need to sit on a towel to keep it up. Place your hand on the ground. In your case it'll be your left hand. You're going to lift, and that might be it, right? Keeping your sits bones on the ground. Feel like you're lifting up, trying to reach something off that top shelf. And you don't have to round down. This is not the way you want to go. You want to keep those sits bones down and you're lifting up. It doesn't matter how far you go. And now release. And do that 2 times. And release. And one more. And release. All right. So let's do the other side. So your right hand is on the ground. You lift it up. And release. And one more. This is to get us ready so we understand the concept to do something we call mermaid in Pilates. So you want to place your left hand down and roll and then back. Now again, to the point of gentle resistance. We're all going to be different here. We're all going to look a little different. The breathing is exhale. Inhale as you come back to the middle. Exhale. Inhale as you come back to the middle. There we go. So now our back is nicely stretched out and warmed up, and we're aware of our back, so we can go on to our hands and knees. Now, here's the key with the hands and knees. This is kind of a pre-plank, so this is a good way to test that you are ready to do a plank. If you find that your wrist hurts in this position, you can always do it on your knuckles, but I will say that you'll want to have padding under your knuckles, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do it on my hands. So you're on your hands and knees, and I'm going to do it sideways so you can tell. Try to have your back, really focus on a neutral back. So here's the key. Remember those postural checks? Well, let's do them in this position. Bring your shoulder blades back, forward, and then have them right in between. Don't shrug them. In fact, it's even harder to shrug them there, but the key is to have that shoulder in its stable position. That's the strongest position. pelvis forward and back, and you want it right in between. So it's forward, back, and right in between. All right, so now we're ready to do something called the spinal balance. Tighten the abdominals and bring your right leg out since we're sideways. You can see. You don't want to have it too high. You want to have it so that it's like a table. So it's like if I look back, I'm pointing it. It's a straight table. Now, you might just stay like that. But if you're ready and if you want to start working those abdominals more, you can lift your left arm. Squeezing, breathing, don't hold your breath. This is kind of a precursor move to a plank. And let's bring it down. Now, let's go ahead and do the other side. So I'm going to lift my left leg straight out again. Remember, don't lift it up. Keep it nice and straight. You're like a table. Left leg out, right arm out. Straight. Breathing. 3 breath cycles. All right, so now let's move it back and forth now that we've got it kind of flowing. Exhale. And come back. And exhale. And come back. And 2 more. And back. And back. And 1 more each side. And back. Let's go ahead and sit. One thing that I always want to go over once we've been on our wrist for a while, especially if you didn't have on your fist, go ahead and rotate those wrists. Give them a little bit of stretching so that you stretch out those wrist extensors. They were kind of in a maybe awkward position, so make sure you do that. All right, now we're ready to go on the ground. I'm going to move my shoes. So what you want to do here, it's first time lying on the ground. I'm going to stay facing you, but I'm going to describe. So you might want to watch me the first time so you know kind of what I'm doing here. So what I'm doing is I'm tightening the abdominals. My abdominals are not on the floor. So place your hands on each side of your ears. Tighten the abdominals. Your nose is about 1 inch above the ground. Now here's the key. Remember that test we did for the pelvis? We're going to do it again. So tip it forward, you don't want. If it's tipped forward, then your stomach muscles aren't engaged. Engage those stomach muscles. Stack the front part of your pelvis and that back. You want that to be stacked on top of each other. Okay, so the best way to do it, now you might want to try it. So if you're lying down now, have your nose 1 inch above the ground, tighten those abdominals, tighten them, tighten them, tighten them, and hold them there. Remember that exercise we did in the beginning? Well, guess what? We're doing it again, only now we're holding it longer than 3 breaths. Tighten those abdominals. Tighten them, tighten them, tighten them. Okay, now relax them just to 20% so we can relax. Okay, now tighten them again because now we're going to bring our hands out to the side and hover. And that's all we're going to do today in the beginning Pilates class. I want you to hover, hover, hover with your arms out to your side. Now, if this causes discomfort in your lower back, keep your hands by your ears and you still get the benefit of the exercise. So breathing, breathing. Don't hold your breath. We're holding it for 6 breath cycles. And I'm going to borrow from yoga. Let's all go back into child's pose. So we're going to lean back and do a little bit of a stretch. And let's come on to a seated position. So that is called breaststroke prep. It's really just the beginning of the more complicated breaststroke that we use in Pilates. However, it's really good to come back to the fundamentals, even if you know Pilates. And as you do your breaststroke, come back to that basic move where you don't move the arms. You just bring them out to your side and you hover. So that'll work the upper back, but the abdominals as well. So some more seated work we can do from this position is we're going to do a modified V-sit. I'm actually going to borrow a little bit from yoga and we're going to do a boat pose, but let me go over some of these things. I'm going to do it sideways. Now this one, you don't want to be up onto your your sits bones or your tailbone on this one. We actually want to tilt the pelvis, and that's because you don't want that tailbone grinding into the ground. So go ahead and round the pelvis. However, when I do that, I'm looking down, so now I have to straighten my upper thoracic. So what it looks like again is you round down all the way into a circle, like a rounded back, but then bring the neck up. So I'm purposely tucking my tailbone under, so you're not sitting on your tailbone. Now, this could be it for your V-sit. You're still engage those abdominals now. Set your core, just like we talked about. Whew, that's plenty of exercise for a lot of people. You can feel that. Now, you can just bring up one leg, okay, and hold it. You can bring up two legs. And I'm gonna stop here for the beginning video so that you get a chance to practice. If you find that as you do this, your back is hurting, your stomach, then don't lift your feet up, or maybe only lift one foot up. One more breath cycle, and let's come back. Now I'm going to use some of those other movements that we already learned to get the blood flowing in that back again. Just go back to our spinal twist. And remember the basics of the spinal twist. You can always have your arms on your rib cage and back. And good, check your posture. So we've done some for the abdominals this way. Now I'm going to combine, we're going to do the abdominals front again, but I'm going to combine it in the next move. This is called a half roll back. So I'm going to do it sideways again so you can kind of see. Okay, so in the half roll back, you can stay with your hands on your knees. I want you to round that tailbone so you're not grinding that tailbone into the ground. I'm rounded. And here, go ahead and stay rounded. You don't have to bring the top up because we're not balancing. I just want you to rock back and exhale. So, or you can exhale on the way down and inhale on the way up. That might be better because that way you're not tempted to hold your breath. Now, if you can do it without holding on, that's great. But if you need to hold on to your knees, go ahead. We got 3 more. Okay, this is called half roll back. 2 more. 1 more. And to give that back a break, let's go ahead and sit, and now let's do our lateral flexion. Just a little bit, just 3 of them. Remember to keep your, this is called mermaid. All right, let's do a little bit of spine stretch forward and open up, just to kind of get that back moving again. 1 more. Okay, this next one I'm going to do facing you. It's combining, it's called half roll back with obliques. So what you want to do is act like you're doing a half roll back. But I would recommend holding on with your left hand. And you're going to take your right hand and you're going to act like you're dipping it in water. And you're going to rotate. Again, if you have any problems with rotation, don't rotate far. Just do a little baby rotation and back. Okay, if you don't have any problems, maybe you go just a little bit further, but you're not reaching behind you. You're just reaching out and to the side. And by holding on, you're supporting your back. Now, if you want to do a little bit more difficult version, you don't hold on, but listen to your body, because it's worth holding on, especially when you first learn this exercise, so you don't strain the back. I'm rotating from the rib cage, just like we did earlier. And so I'll do 1 more. Exhale, and come up. Now your hip flexors might be a little bit tight here, so let's go ahead and stand up, and that's part of the exercise. Stand up however works. And I'm going to borrow a little bit from yoga. We're going to do a sunflower just to get that blood flowing. It's like a little baby squat here, but you're not letting your knees go past your toes. So don't go very far at all. In fact, we're going to do a squat, a Pilates style squat. Okay, from our standing position, center ourselves in mountain. Notice how your stomach is 20% engaged at all times. You're stable. Okay, so to do, it's also in yoga, we call it a chair pose. We're gonna place our hands on our knees and the butt's gonna go out. Don't let those knees go past your toes. So if you take your hands and you have your fingers extended, make sure they don't go past your toes. The other thing is you wanna keep a nice neutral back. Don't round it. We are not rounding in this one. We're hinging at the hip, placing our hands on our knees, and we're just holding it there. Now, if you want to work it a little bit harder, you can bring the hands up. But to do that, you have to engage the abdominals and so that you support that lower back. If that hurts your lower back at all, just keep your hands on your knees. Okay, 3 more breath cycles. Keep your breathing even. One more. And let's go ahead and borrow from yoga. And now we're going to do that sunflower. And you just do a little baby squat. It's not a full. I'm only doing one set of each exercise so that you can kind of learn them. And coming back to mountain to center ourselves. All right, back down to the mat. Now we are going to do a plank. So I might do my plank sideways so that you can see how the modifications work here. But first, just come down onto your hands and knees, okay? Now, guess what? This could be your plank, right? You don't have to do a full plank. Again, remember that you can always be on your wrists with maybe additional padding, on your fists instead of your bending your wrists, okay? So, I'm gonna go ahead and lie on the floor here. Okay, so now here's the key. When you do a plank, you wanna keep your back nice and stable. So you can come up onto the balls of your feet and you're on the forward part of your arms, your forearms. You can do this and keep your knees down. But my stomach is very, very tight, supporting my lower back. I'm not letting it, ooh, ouch, go into something like that. I'm keeping the back straight. So if you haven't already started, let's go ahead and get into a plank. So you can be down on your knees. You don't have to be up. You can be up, or some people prefer to do it up higher. Now this may put strain on your wrists. It might put, so I would recommend for beginners that you start with the knees down if you prefer to do it up. But some people don't like the pain on the wrist. All right, woo! And let's sit up in case you've been doing that whole time with me. Gave you lots of options there. So let's just do a little seated sunflower. And we're gonna do one more plank. But I wanted to give you the options so you can kind of see maybe which one might work for you. Okay, so now you kind of have in your mind which one you're gonna do. I'm gonna hold the plank for just 20 seconds. So we won't hold it for as long as maybe we do in some of the other classes. It's gonna be about 3 breath cycles, maybe 4. I'll just do it facing you now. Okay, so I'm gonna do mine on my forearms and my toes, but do whatever works for you, and up. Now, notice, I'm breathing. I'm gonna use my Pilates breath. That's 2, 3, and 4. And let's all go back into child's pose to rest. Yay. Okay, let's come up. Standing so that we work our muscles. Sunflower. One more. Coming back to mountain to make sure our posture is good. Now these next are not necessarily pure Pilates exercises, but I like to add them. They actually come from barre, B-A-R-R-E workout, but since we don't have bars here, I modified them a little bit, and I actually use these in a lot of my senior classes. So what you're going to do is take your index finger, put it under your rib cage, and your pinky is on the hip bone. So it's like you're holding it sideways. Now here's the key. You can have one hand or both, and you're going to tip it to the side and back. But you're not collapsing through the middle part of your back. So you're pointing and coming back. What you're doing is working the outer hip here. The outer hip, the abductor, out and back. Okay, so now that you got it, let's do it 3 more times. 3, 2, 1 more. And shake it out. And let's do it the other side. The reason I like to do these standing is sometimes lying on the mat when we do our side leg lifts in Pilates, the hips get a little sore. So I need like a really thick padding. So I started to do them standing and it works well. So again, other side, you're doing your right side and you're doing out and in. My mat's sticking a little, I'm gonna move over a little. Centered and out and in. Now the advantage of keeping the toe is it prevents you from lifting it. 3 more. 1 more. All right, let's do a sunflower. Let's borrow from yoga and do a sunflower. Okay, so 1 more exercise and then we'll call it a day. So we did the abductors. Now I want to do the glutes and the medial gluteus. So we're going to hit the side here. So what makes this a little different, I'm going to do it facing you. Instead of just going straight to the side, you're going to go at an angle. Same kind of principle though. You don't want to let that pelvis tilt. So tighten those abdominals. Get that hands on the side and go back. Okay? 4 more. 3 more. 3, 2, and the reason how you keep the toe down is it prevents you. Oh, shake it out. You don't want to lift up. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to keep the back neutral. No strain on these muscles. If you feel it here, then make your move even teenier. You don't have to go far to get the benefit. So again, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 more. There we go. Shake it out. And let's go ahead and do our sunflower. And we're going to do our coming back to mountain. And this is how we're going to end with our postural check, making sure that you're nice and stable. So thanks for joining me for Introduction to Pilates. My name is Laurel Salvador. The next video I do will be more of an intermediate, beginner to intermediate mat Pilates class. Thanks for coming.